Well, good morning. My name is Joshua Bednarik. I have the honor of serving as the director for the City of Phoenix Planning and Development Department. Thank you all for being here this morning. Today is about listening to you as one set of our customers, about how we can get better. And one of the themes that we are framing this conversation under is partnership. Right? We want to be great partners for you, as everyone in this room has some role in helping our city take shape. So why are we here? As I said, we really want to listen. I also want to introduce the phenomenal team of my colleagues on the management team for the department. We've gone through a little bit of a restructuring, and part of, as we endeavor to become better partners for you all, it's highlighting who do we have in place, help leading that effort, leading our different sections, so that you know who to connect with in the department. So this is an org chart. Many of you should have seen a packet that came out from me when we announced these listening sessions that highlighted kind of who we have, where, and what they're doing. And right now I'm going to turn it over to the team to introduce themselves. We'll highlight some of the things that we are doing already, and then we're going to turn it over to you. So with that, I'll turn to the team. Jason, why don't you get us started?
All right, good morning, everybody. Jason Blakely, I'm Assistant Director over our Plan Review Division. A little early, I can't spit that out yet. So I have oversight over our site development team, our building and fire plan review team, and then also our building official team. So Ken, Mike, and Miguel will introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what each of those sections does. Sam?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Sam McAllen, Assistant Director here with Planning and Development. I've got the privilege of being over our inspections team, and that group is actually led by Tom Wandry. He's our Deputy Director. He'll introduce himself in just a few moments. Our Office of Customer Advocacy, and Renee Blakely is here with the Office of Customer Advocacy. And then our Ombudsman section, I've got David Urbanato hidden behind me over here. And then I also have the privilege of being the primary contact with TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation up north. So it's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to hearing from you. I'm going to turn this over to Mary Ann.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Mary Ann Fotinos, Assistant Director over the Business and Strategy Division in the Planning and Development Department. And a lot of what I do is supporting the business aspects of the department. We're embarking in a very large technology project called Shape Phoenix, where we're replacing all of our business applications, trying our best to make sure that technology supports our customers in the best way that it can. Also oversee all the finance and budget operations in the department, as well as growth and infrastructure. And I will be introducing, Adam Miller, who is the Deputy over Growth Infrastructure and Financial Stability, will be introducing himself pretty soon here. Oh, here you go, David.
Good morning, everybody. I'm David Urbanato. I head our Ombudsman section in the department. We're kind of a new section. I have a team of 3. This is ending our first full year. We do primarily residential projects, but we're here to help when projects get stalled and anyone just has questions, stuck.
Good morning. My name is Mike Abeg. I'm the Acting Deputy Director and Building Official. So my section, I work with the technical leads. We are over the code adoption, so we'll be looking at the 2024 codes and making recommendations to council in this coming year. I'm also over some of the applications where we need some alternate approval. So that's in code mods, interpretations, alternate materials. So you'll work with me and my group if you have that need. I also oversee our technical document committee, our TRT committee. That's where we have about 1,000 policy documents that we're trying to go back and take a look at and overhaul and organize. And then many of you are familiar with our self-certified program, so I'm over that program. And in general, just there to help our plan review and inspection staff and our customers as they go through interpreting the code.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everybody. I'm Adam Miller, Deputy Director, Growth Infrastructure and Finance. My team has a broad array of external-facing and internal-facing services. We do the city's growth projections that inform our capital needs and our infrastructure requirements for all the departments. My team administers the Development Impact Fees program. as well as facilitates community facility district financing mechanisms. We also do the department's accounting, so that would include our permit fees and other accounting requirements. Good morning.
Hi, I'm Helena Reuter. I'm the Historic Preservation Officer within the Planning and Development Department. The majority of the work that we do is design review for our roughly 9,000 to 10,000 designated properties. But we also do a review for commercial properties that are over 50 years of age that are going through demolition. You may also intersect with us if you are using federal funds or you need a federal permit to work on a project, because we do Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act review. And then we're super excited because with the bond passing, as we head into fiscal year 25, we will have kind of a new set of grants available for commercial properties, so exterior work on designated or soon to be designated properties. So we're super excited about that. And I will hand it to Tom.
Thank you, Helena. My name is Tom Wandry. I'm over the inspection division, which consists of AFP, which is our annual facilities program, which includes elevators, also the communications section, our residential inspection, which are our general inspectors. They do all single-family homes. And then also over commercial inspections, which do all the commercial buildings, and then also our civil inspection team. With that, I'll turn it over to Miguel.
Thank you, Tom. Miguel Victor, I'm the Deputy Director for the Site Development Team. Our section includes the site, civil, landscape, and traffic reviews. So we coordinate with our other sister departments for pre-applications and preliminary reviews. We also do abandonment, technical appeals, and just work with very closely with our zoning section on interpreting zoning stipulations. Thank you. Turn it over to Renee.
Thank you, Miguel. My name is Renee Blakely. I'm over the Office of Customer Advocacy section, and also known as OCA. OCA's primary goal is adaptive reuse program. So we help small businesses navigating through the development process and preserving buildings. So work really closely with historic preservation and then also customer service. So I look forward to hearing from you today. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Ken Alexander, Deputy Director over Building and Fire. My division includes residential and commercial plan review and fire plan review, and then also we have an administrative function. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Trisha Gomes, Deputy Director over Planning and Zoning. I'm over the current planning, which is our application intake, temporary permits, zoning interpretations, our long-range section, which is our village planning committees, and our science section.
I want to spend just a couple minutes this morning just talking about what we're working on, what we're endeavoring to do as we try to become better partners for y'all. And as many of you saw in the message that I sent out, we're really focusing on 3 areas of service: personal, seamless, and innovative. Those certainly aren't comprehensive buckets, but as we start this conversation, those are 3 areas that, based on feedback we've received over the last couple of years, we're certainly not starting this endeavor not having a really good idea about where we need to go. But these conversations help us kind of point us in other directions. Maybe what did we miss? What are the things that we really need to work on? You know, as many of you have heard me talk about before, the pandemic posed real challenges for service for us, as it did for many organizations, but especially at a personal level, right? And part of what could we do to endeavor to try to make those connections back with you as our customers across the board, that's captured in this under this personal umbrella. Seamless, many of you have heard me talk about, I've been with the city for 22 years. Frank Fairbanks, when he was the city manager at the time, really focused on this concept of seamless service, that when you engaged or had contact with a customer, that you took ownership of them, that you just didn't pass them off, even if they weren't in the right spot. How can we get back to that? Those are things that we're reinforcing internally already. And then innovative, from the wholesale changeover of our permitting system with Shape Phoenix to just doing maybe processes a little bit differently to serve you all better. Those are 3 areas that we're going to focus on and think you'll see more of that as we move forward with some of these ideas. So I'm going to have Jason come up and talk about what we're doing within each of those buckets already. Again, we're not starting from zero on this, but we're really looking forward to enhance this list of items that we're already working on as we listen to you more today. Jason?
All right, thank you, Josh. Yeah, as Josh mentioned, we're kind of aware of some of the challenges that we faced as a department. So we wanted to kind of go over those things with you today, and then obviously get some feedback on those as well. So enhanced communication. I think we all can agree that we kind of struggle with this going into the pandemic, even coming out of it. We really want to reinforce to our staff, making sure that we're getting back to our customers, providing them a response. Even if that response is just to say that I've received your message, I will follow up in X amount of days. At least the customer knows that someone's got it and they're working on it. We want to establish better standards for communication with our customers, especially when it comes to plan review inspection notes from our reviewers and inspectors. We want those to be clear, concise. We want them to quote a code section. We want those comments, those communications to lead the designer, the developer, the contractor out in the field towards what it is that we're expecting as a reviewer or inspector. We also have had some struggles with our sister departments in terms of coordination. So we've been working very strongly on bettering those efforts. We do hold monthly coordination meetings with water services, streets department, fire, public works is included in some of those as well. A lot of the development comments that come out of pre-apps and prelims are related to other departments that we're communicating on their behalf, but we want them to be part of, again, back to partnership, part of this partnership and development, right? So making sure that we're coordinating with our sister departments and we're all on the same page. We also, and this is going to kind of roll into the empowerment section that we're going to look at, but we want to highlight paths to escalate challenges or issues, right? We're all up here as resources and we get a lot of emails and phone calls every day, but we don't necessarily want it to start with us. We want you guys working with our plan review staff, working with our inspectors, working with the section supervisors, team leaders, deputies, and up. But when it comes straight to me or Josh, and then we kind of got to figure out what the problem is, go back through staff, it's usually putting that back on staff to figure that out anyway. So again, finding or highlighting a clear path so you as the customer can escalate any of those challenges or issues. So empowerment of staff, talked a little bit about it earlier on that other slide, but we obviously need to provide additional training to our staff. We've been running 20% vacancy rate for the last 2 years. We've had some success in hiring some of those vacancies lately, but we have a lot of new staff. So making sure that institutional knowledge gets passed down from the senior members of the department to our younger reviewers, inspectors, anybody working on the finance team, on the HP team, just that transition of knowledge to the next level of our leadership. Foster, Josh touched on this earlier, foster a culture of ownership. I know we're not going to have the answer to every problem that comes up, but we can navigate that for the customer. We don't need to put them in the middle of that. If it needs to go through water services department, if it needs to go to streets, we have staff that act as liaisons between those departments. So not just a blind handoff to one of those departments or sections, really working with the customer, making sure they're getting where it is they need to get going. So another critical component in empowerment of staff is really recognizing when our staff are making good calls, right? They make a good call in the field, they make a good call in the office. We as managers want to support that. We want to foster that down to the supervisors as well, making sure that they're providing that feedback to our staff, letting them know that they're doing a good job. And then, when we have challenges that come up or maybe something that wasn't handled the way that we want it to, taking advantage of those opportunities to work with our staff, leading them in the right direction where it is we want them to go. So innovated, obviously Josh touched on it earlier, but this is probably one of the best management teams I've worked with in my 29 years at the Planning and Development Department. So it's great to have all of these vacancies filled. We were running about 6 months with 3 or 4 vacancies up here, and it stretched us pretty thin in terms of the management team. So getting all these vacancies filled, having this great team in place has been a plus from the get-go here. Implementation of Shape Phoenix. I'm sure you guys have all had some exposure to Shape Phoenix. We've gone through 2 releases now. First was residential. We brought on HP, zoning, and planning. Yes, okay. Phase 3 release is going to be our biggest release. It's going to include all of our commercial building, civil site planning. So it's going to be a big lift. It's going to hit in 2025. We have to dedicate a lot of our SMEs to those work groups to make sure that that product is functioning the way that we expect it to. But it's going to be a huge customer service enhancement for our department in the city. Another thing that we identified is we have a lot of touch points, and I'll just touch on the intake process for any plans coming in through EPR. It has to touch so many hands, not just the applicant, their design team, but so many touch points within the city that one of the things that we really want to look at is where we can reduce those touch points, where we can be more efficient in our processes. We really rely on new staff coming in to kind of look at that. We have staff that have been here 20, 30 years. They're kind of used to the old train of thought. But when we bring new staff members on board, we really push them. It's like, if you see something that doesn't make sense, ask the question. No question's a bad question for sure. And then, I touched on the vacancy rate. We were running about 20%. I just saw our latest one, we're at 15, so good news there. Obviously, working with our HR department to take advantage of any innovative ways that we can to fill those vacancies. City Council just approved a new compensation package for the employees a couple months ago, so that's been a help. I think that's kind of cut that 20 down to 15. But we're still having a challenge filling our technical related, plan review and inspection positions, especially engineer, architect level. So we need to continue to work with our HR department to find creative ways to fill those vacancies. And with that, I will turn it back over to Josh for our next steps.
Thank you, Jason. I really just want to thank all of you for being here this morning. We really do value your feedback. We value your partnership. We value this opportunity to hear from you. To that end, right, we're all up here. We've got Channel 11 recording us all in HD. So when you step up to the mic, just know that we're going to be capturing it in the highest resolution possible. If you haven't already, if you get a chance to fill out these cards, we've got our phenomenal PIO, Talia, in the back documenting as well. I want to thank Matt from Channel 11 for being here. This is an all hands on deck endeavor, and I'm just really, really excited to be having this conversation with you all. Grateful for you all taking the time. We're going to take all the feedback that we received. We've had 2 sessions. This is our 3rd. We'll have another one on January 12th. And then we're going to compile all that and then report back to the mayor and city council in the spring with the idea that we'll probably have 2 conversations with them, summarizing what we heard and then starting to outline before the summer the things we're going to endeavor to do together to try to implement some of your ideas and get better. All right, so those of you who've been in attendance before, you know the basic structure. We want you to start off the conversation with highlighting what's one area we're doing well, right? And part of that is to highlight, maybe there's something that if we're doing something in one section, we need to deploy that approach in another. And then, there's water and coffee in the back, to get you guys your vocal cords all ready. Tell us where we need to do better. Where's the area that we need to improve upon most? And again, thankful for your feedback. I'll start going to the cards. If you've got one, you can hand one to Helen in the back, run it back up here to me. So first one we've got is Nate Sinoski. Nate, come on up.
I regret this now that it's on Channel 11. So I'm Nate Sinoski. I think I know most of you guys. I'm on the Development Advisory Board for the city, Central City Village Planning, former chair, licensed architect, and work in real estate development. So I know a few of the people here, so I'm curious if they echo my same sentiments, but doing well. The city has been honestly great to work with the last few years of kind of ups and downs, as we all know. The senior leadership here, I think I've met almost all of you at this point. I probably emailed about half of you in the last 3 days, so forgive me for that. But I think the senior leadership has been doing a great job. Whenever somebody has to pull you in, I think the help you give is amazing because, you're like our 10th option, like 1 through 9, we're working with staff, we're calling them, we're trying to go down to the city. I don't try to bring you guys in, but when I have to, you're just not getting a response. I can't thank you enough for your help there. And then the second thing I like is the team leaders, like some of the team leaders for commercial, even some of the residential ones. I don't know if they call them team leaders or not, but that kind of middle management is really strong right now. And I think that's a testament to some of the training I think you guys have given them. And then the couple of things that I wrote on the card to improve, I think I've told a couple of you this many times, so I'll just keep repeating it, but staff should really just approve as noted when it's reasonable to do so. Like to get a project back, and I'm sure this has happened to a couple of the people in the audience, after 2 or 3 reviews with 1 or 2 comments is just a project killer. Like if a staff sees a comment, they should just say, hey, approved as noted, pick up this comment. You're a professional architect, contractor, engineer, seasoned developer. I trust you. Like this one comment, I know you'll pick it up and move on. And I think that'll help some of their task list. When you get an email back, I have 17 projects until I get to yours. It's kind of like, why don't you just approve it as noted? And then I wouldn't have to come back to you. And then the second thing is that same topic where every project is not the same. It shouldn't go back to the bottom of the list if it's very minor. Like I've had 2 people from the city in the last week tell me, I have 2 high rises ahead of yours. And mine was 1 question about a field change. So just, not all projects are the same. You don't always go back to the bottom of the list. You can kind of pick and choose, hey, this is a 2-second task or this is a 2-week task. Don't put the 2-second task behind a 2-week task. So that's my feedback. And thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Nate. Next up, Patrick Hallman.
Hello, Patrick Hallman, architect, and thank you for putting these on. These are really helpful. I guess something good you're doing, and I really like since it started, is the Office of Customer Advocacy. And we have certain projects that you just get stuck. Some inner city, non-conforming properties, and you apply the code, and things come out that are just impractical. And if it wasn't for the Office of Citizens Advocacy and some of the staff there helping the various departments to work on these problems, it create litigation. So I've had several cases where I think that department has been extremely helpful at getting communication going between the various departments to resolve issues. As far as other things with adaptive reuse, I guess, where I could see some improvement is had a few projects, primarily like downtown urban core type projects where there could potentially be some expansion. And one in particular, real quick upon, would be multifamily housing. We've got certain clients that want to take their commercial buildings and apply perhaps some multifamily housing. Adaptive reuse doesn't necessarily work with multifamily housing or residential, but there could be some applications there because it's certainly sustainable to save those buildings as opposed to tearing them down because they don't work. So, I know when you get into housing with some of the credits that you get, it gets complicated, but I think there could be some benefit at looking at that to our city. And another thing too, I can just bring up quickly is in the submittal of plans, I don't know what kind of coordination you guys do between your plan reviewers and the different departments, but I've had a couple of occasions where, for 10, 15 years, we've been applying certain practices, certain ways of doing things in our drawings, and then all of a sudden I'll get a red line that basically is almost 180 degrees. And I know in the past you guys have had us as architects, you've had open houses where you go over a change in the building code changes that you have in the city. But if there are certain ways in which you're applying the code, it'd be great to have a workshop, because it'd be, sometimes it takes hours to unravel these things and get the response, and you want to know why. Why are we doing it this way? So, but otherwise, I think everybody in the staff has been really helpful to just reach out to, make a phone call. We're all busy, but we get a good answer in that regard.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next? I saw some folks handing out cards. Amy's stepping up. If you want to come up, if you're feeling inspired, you haven't filled out a card yet, that's okay, right? Just come up. You could fill it out afterwards. Just come on up to the mic. Go ahead.
Now Mark has to follow me, so just I'm Amy Malloy with Evolve Ventures. Also, I think this group's important because it's adaptive reuse. So I have the privilege with Nate Snotsky actually of chairing the ULI's Local Product Council for Infill and Adaptive Reuse. So, and I just want to say first off, I love so many of you up here. So Josh and Sam, I'm like Tom, Miguel, Trisha, who are the new youth? So I love that you're directors, and that's incredible, but we have been so reliant on you for 15 plus years because you're the problem solvers. So, I mean, that's, I think one of the big things I had is through the lens of adaptive reuse, there's not a one size fits all application to a lot of those projects. And your groups and your teams have always, I think, had the problem solving mindset. So, one of my questions, I guess, to go from what your prompt is, what you're doing well is you are the problem solvers. And I think that that's evident in how you work with your staff. I think I would want to also make sure that your staff feels as empowered to be problem solving and not so hell-bent on being entrenched a little bit in, especially if something doesn't negatively impact health, safety, welfare, and will positively impact the economics or the redevelopment of a community. So I think one of my big questions is, in addition to who are the new yous, I actually wrote Mike's name down, so sorry, I feel like you're my new Tom Wandry, so sorry about that, but and I really love Tom Wandry, so, but I think what I would want to know is how are you gonna help not just your own departments, but some of the more regulatory departments? I'm gonna repeat them because you did, water, streets, public works. So those tend to be very siloed departments. And I think it's great that you have seamlessness. I think that we would just want to know what are some of the strategies that you guys are looking at as a department to help work the intergovernmental between these other groups who really tend to stand by the code at all costs, regardless of its ability to kill a project. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you guys, thank you for this, Josh. You guys are amazing to set this up, so thank you.
Thank you. Mark, come on up.
All right, thank you, and ditto. Appreciate it, guys. So I just wanted to touch on, in terms of doing well, something that done a couple projects in the downtown market, and having that team that was focused. I know, Miguel, you're handing it off to another group probably, but having that, that kind of focused team dedicated to a unique zoning area is really thoughtful. And I think it felt like it was pretty effective. And sometimes I start asking myself, is there an opportunity to have a team focused on adaptive reuse projects and kind of really, kind of thinking through that process of, is there enough volume to support that? And is there opportunities to kind of create a team lead that ties to that? Areas to improve, yeah, it's really interesting. I've done adaptive reuse, and the only other one I've really done stuff is in Tempe. We've studied stuff in Glendale and stuff, and also in Chandler and in Mesa, I've studied those. And I think there's a real cool opportunity to kind of roll up the sleeves at some point and ask ourselves, is there an opportunity to look at all the policy that was put in place to support adaptive reuse and to create a 2.0 version of that, and to look at the best practices of other communities and other industry organizations. Something that Amy and I have both participated a lot in is Urban Land Institute. And it's a nonpartisan, just kind of organization that looks at best practices. And I've looked to that organization to get input and feedback on stuff. And it's been interesting because I think Phoenix really set the kind of stirred the pot initially in terms of our metros in Arizona. Tempe, Mesa, Chandler, they've picked up the ball and taken it probably a little further and maybe created even more dynamic elements that allows for the benefits of adaptive reuse to be realized instead of this, policy that gives too much carte blanche or is too little and just doesn't really merit itself. So it'll probably be really interesting to kind of just have a 2.0 policy review and maybe even lean on possibly outside organizations to help cure that conversation initially, and then maybe help you guys kind of create a template for 2.0. Thanks.
Mark, you said that was Tempe, the city Tempe.
City of Tempe did an adaptive reuse project ordinance that was quite robust. I think they need a 2.0 version too myself.
Okay.
But they looked at Phoenix's and said, how can we make this better? And it's not a giveaway. It's actually a good, thoughtful element that has by right elements, but also has administrative approval elements built into it if you go over 5,000 feet or something like that. So,
thank you, Mark. All right. Thank you, Alan. Come on up.
Good morning, Alan Bodwin. I'm a principal at Norris Design. We do land planning, landscape architecture, and community branding. And when the notice came out for this, I looked at the images that were put up there, and I say, I know most of the management team here, and I have a lot of confidence in this group, and I think the department's future is looking good with your leadership. So thank you all for being who you are. A little bit of my history, I think many of you know this. I spent a dozen years in your team a long time ago and left for the private sector and have been working in the private sector now for about 27 years. And so one of the things I can say is I was a part of the process that created the team leader, and I was the city's first team leader. And the year was 1994, and the project was the first phase of Desert Ridge. Well, Desert Ridge has come a long way since then. I think the process, we experimented with it, and I think it went pretty well, and I'm so pleased to see that it's still going. And what I can say about what you're doing well, I think someone said it, your team leaders are doing an excellent job. And some of you have participated in that process and have played that role, and I think it's so very important to your organization, and I hope it sticks around for a long time because it gives a developer and developers, consultants an opportunity to talk directly with someone who's a little more seasoned and understands, and hopefully you're putting problem solvers, as Amy indicated, that's so important, problem solvers in a position to help. Now, what I will say is a little more challenging, and I was also a part of, your department used to be the planning department and it used to be the development services department. I was at City Hall when the development services department was created, and Josh has heard this. And the reason it was created was developers would have to go to all these independent departments who were operating in silos, as was mentioned as well. And to try to get things done under that structure was very difficult. So I applaud the council at the time for creating the development services department. And the department was very empowered to work and work within the water services, street transportation, the grading aspects, floodplain management, all of those things, and make decisions. And they were empowered then to make those decisions. Not so much right now, from my experience. I got a comment last week that was extremely aggravating. And it's not related to your department. I see it as your associated departments taking too much stake in what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So in my opinion, that is eroded in terms of this department having the ability to make decisions and maybe push back on some of those parent departments who are being unreasonable. And in this case, it's affiliated with something that I think is extremely unproportional in terms of an exaction and a project that I'm working on. So I'm going to be looking to one of you to help me solve that problem. I don't know who yet because the problem's complex, but we'll be talking, and I appreciate all of you and the work that you're doing, and I honestly do believe in this group that's sitting up on the stage this morning. So thank you.
Thank you, Alan. All right, Brian, come on up.
Sorry, I didn't read the rules. I didn't fill out card. I'm Brian Cassidy, CCBG Architects down in the Warehouse District. Been active in a lot of adaptive reuse work and a lot of the infill work in downtown for many, many years. So here's what I'd say the best outcome that I've seen in the city in the last year is doing what you're doing today. The reorg, I think, is refreshing. The transparency of who's who, what their roles are. Everybody, I just think it's really well done and very excited. I could also tell you that everybody's still looking to hire. Every contractor, every engineer, architect, developer, just as you are, the fire department, and there's still more work than people to do the work and so forth. So we know how challenging that is from that perspective. I had one question for you. Through Phoenix Community Alliance, going back about 4 years ago when we started the white paper, we asked for a second downtown team be formed for downtown projects. And I know, Miguel, you got bumped up the ladder. Who are the downtown project team leaders going forward? Are they identified?
Ken, you want to take it?
Craig Davis.
Is there just one team for downtown? Can you get two? Because, there's good.
This is the place to ask.
Yeah, I know that's not easy, but there's my banker calling me. I'm going to tell him, hold on. So that's one question. A couple things that have come up multiple times on adaptive reuse work we've done, especially if a building is under HP status, is being asked to do things such as rejecting our existing single glazed windows because they do not meet current energy performance standards, and having to argue that through why we're under historic register, can't change those windows, and so forth. And then we've had other reviewers comment, well, why don't you then just fur out all your beautiful brick buildings and insulate them and sort of just absolutely destroy the character and context of some of these buildings. So I think a standard in that area would be good. A lot of the other downtown adaptive reuse buildings get this, there's a handful of buildings that are literally built to the property line on all four sides and or alleys or streets, or in one of the projects we did actually on the railroad. And some accommodation for things like doors swinging out into right-of-ways. They're on a historic facade, and it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You have to have it as an exit. Staff wants us to move these doors inward to the building. HP doesn't like that. I mean, it's just some sort of cooperation. I'd also say my last comment, or two more, one, when we've done a couple site plans on adaptive reuse buildings, they're existing buildings that we're saving, and then we get comments like, well, your existing building doesn't meet the storefront requirements for your district in downtown. And just a little common sense help from that perspective. And then the last thing I'd like to say, I think Nate teed it up really well about, I've called it, Josh, and you've heard me talk about this, triage. When there's little things that are really, really critical to a project, if they could get a little more priority moved forward. And in my case, it's been more issues with inspectors rejecting work that is permitted and a few things like that. In the old days, we could resolve those issues in a matter of a couple days. Now it's taken a month or more on some of the projects we've done. And it just seems like, A, that's unnecessary. There is precedence in the past, and we would hope that people realize the pressure coming down on the development community on projects from our clients who are all delivering for the most part late. Their lenders who are raising interest rates on the fly during construction, and the pressure to complete work on the development side is immense right now, as much as it is for you. But I think this is an incredible process. You've done a great job, Josh. We know most of you, you're all doing really, really well. And I can tell you, we got a lot, the city's got such legs underneath it. Again, I'll tell anybody that ever wants to listen that Phoenix is the youngest urban core and the fastest growing urban core. And our future is incredible. And we need everybody to work together and help create a world-class city. Thanks.
Well said, Brian.
I'm Heather Lennon. I'm a local 26-year contractor, developer. I specialize in adaptive reuse and historic buildings. Some of you have perhaps partied in some of my buildings. So one of the things that I think you're doing well is sitting here right now, because it's so important that A, you want to listen, and that B, you actually want to act. I mean, we talked at PCA about having actual actionable items that are measurable in terms of their results. That's something that's very important for us. I feel like as an infill developer, as someone who's passionate about saving historic buildings, I feel like what we do is the hardest thing. And it's not made easier by the process that we have to go through with the city. So a couple things. So I love what you guys are doing now. I love the fact that you actually have a team. We have noticed the lack of staff, of course, because it impacts us at the end use. Okay, first thing. I would like you to infuse your process with logic, because oftentimes we have conversations that are very illogical, and it just does not make sense that there's not an opportunity for people to just step back and say, logic dictates you should let us take the windows out and put double pane glass in it so that we can get that efficiencies. What we'd had to do in our processes is hire someone to actually build old world windows that then we put in with those argon gas. So logic, that's a small example, but logic needs to be infused so that there is an opportunity for decision making that makes more sense. I think we should have more advocacy for builders and developers. All of us sadly have stories about how we have been misused by our clients. And I think having more advocacy here for us would be very vital for me, and I know for others that do what I do. Streamline the process of plan permitting. I love the fact that there's a self-cert program for my architects. Why is there not a self-cert program for me that has been a residential commercial general contractor and developer for 22 years that has a master's degree? So why is there not a process where my skill set and the things that I have done, can we expand the PBI process for us such that perhaps maybe we get a little more leeway than someone coming off the street? I feel like we're treated exactly as anyone, regardless of the level of knowledge base that you bring with you. So an expanded PBI process for us would be wonderful. I'm happy to take a class for 9 hours and then be self-certified, but it would be nice to have something for what it is that we do. Better oversight of inspectors' notes for accuracy and completion. I have had many situations where I have had an inspector who has said something and then not noted it on the subsequent notes that he puts for this meeting. And then that person then moves on to other things, and we're now beholden to someone else who has no knowledge base of what has happened, and it's not noted within what it is that they're doing. So it creates a lot of problems for us. I mean, David Urbanato, we can think of one, and it's very challenging. And thankfully, David did instill logic into that, and that helped us solve that problem. But it speaks to a larger issue where I do not feel like the inspectors that are coming on my sites are my advocate. And that's how it should be. I like having someone come and look at things. It verifies what I'm doing as correct. I want things to be done correctly. So, but it really there needs to be better ways in which we can make sure that what happens is actually noted. So that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Heather. Anybody else? Nate, you got it. Round two. All right.
I'm back. Just a quick question, and you might have covered it at the beginning of the meeting, so forgive me if it's redundant. But so the new role or new position, and nobody tells me how to pronounce it, so I'm going to go with my gut, but the ombudsman. I see on like the email that was sent out, one of the items is project status requests, and that's something I know everybody in this room deals with, where you're pinging residential building, commercial building, there's the general email and saying, hey, where's my review? Is that part of that role? How do you guys see that role? I guess that's my question. So.
Yeah, it's a great question. Mark brought this up at PCA earlier this week. Sam McAllen is working with Renee and David right now to really reinforce and kind of hone in on what is long-term, the best function for both OCA and ombudsman. I would say, and certainly I'll let Jason, Ken, Sam, whoever chime in here. But if you have an assigned team leader on a project, that should really be your go-to person. The ombudsman, as it was originally established and kind of charged by the city council, is if someone doesn't really know where to start, for smaller projects, for mom and pops, for residential, that they have a point of contact in the myriad of options for us. And so it really would just depend on the project. I'll turn to the team if there's another way to how you'd answer that question, or go ahead, Jim.
No, Josh, I do think that the team leader is probably the most appropriate for any type of project status. As we continue to develop the Shape Phoenix system, that's really one of our goals, is to provide that transparency and get that out there. I know it's not quite there yet, but one of the things we want to work with Marianne and her team on is getting like dashboard snapshots of where those projects sit, who's left to review it, so you guys can just pop on the internet and take a quick look. We're not quite there yet, but that's a future goal. But I would definitely say reach out to the team leader.
Wendy Riddell.
Thank you. My voice sounds awful. I apologize. Couple things. I mean, what you guys do well, I would tell you, I repeat what I said last time. You're here, you care. It's obvious you care. You are all responsive. You all are problem solvers. So I think the biggest thing I would tell you is now get your staff to do it. Get your staff to be responsive every time. Even if the answer isn't a popular one, even if the answer is, I'll get back to you, just respond. And empower your staff to be solution-oriented. Let them know that if they don't solve the problem, it's going to end up on your desk, and then you're going to tell them to solve the problem. Eventually, they'll realize this is how this works and help solve. And then this is a little off topic, but I have you here and I have the microphone, so, I would tell you guys, if you were designing a system, would you ever really design one where at the planning level, you have a different planner at every single stage? And we work in every city here in Maricopa County, and I'm not aware of a single other city that says you get a village planner here, you get poor Russell that's got to learn every case at commission, and then poor Josh who has to learn every single case at council. And you have village planners who don't understand in the end why everything got changed at the council level, who thinks that maybe senior staff didn't have their back and don't understand the politics of what they're facing. So I would encourage you to try to think outside the box and say, is this system the right one? Because if you step back, you would never design a system that way. That's crazy. Like, let the same person follow that case all the way through. The other question I would ask, again, the benefit of working in other cities, why can't I process a site plan concurrently with zoning? Or even a plat? At least on one that's not controversial. Why do I have to add what is 6, 8, 10, 12 months today on every single project? That's crazy. Like, somebody needs to step back and say, there's a better way to do this. So I would encourage this group, it's hard because you're so entrenched in the system but to step back and say, what are things we could do that would make this overarching system work much better? So that's my 2 cents. Sorry for my voice.
Thank you. Carolyn.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you again, Carolyn Oberholzer. And I absolutely agree with everything Wendy said. And I think, having been to now several of these, I hope you all feel affirmed in your life choices, because the positive is that we're all so happy that you're still here. We are so happy to have grown up with you in this business. And now we are the grown-ups. And now what? And so this is our adaptive reuse era, personally. And we're trying to create this, I think you had on one of the slides, the ownership. And so I think the challenge going forward is exactly what Wendy just said we face in the planning, in the zoning side, is that they don't get to be at the party when we all got it done at the end, when it is this passed off system. And I think one of the ways you do create ownership is celebrating the wins and the successes. And I think you guys already said that, but the process does not, that's got to be like something you guys do outside of the process, because when we leave our village planner, they just watch, bye. And so it is I think will help to foster that sense of ownership, creativity, logic along the way. I was there, I heard that comment, this is what they meant, you've now interpreted to mean something different, just helps that continuity. I don't envy the idea, the solution that flows from that, which is you got to change what you've been doing forever. And I would also echo the sentiment about being able to process site plans concurrently. One of the reasons that is so important is because then you are testing in real time what you are doing being consistent with the zoning and not having to wait until after the process and you've gotten your zoning and now you're in site plan and now you're being told you needed a variance. And you're like, well, I would have just done a PUD or something different back there had I known that. So in this adaptive reuse group, we find all this creativity that can, where there's logic and this is what we meant, and we find a way to make it all come together. And it's a wonderful example of that. And because you have that already, I think you can translate that to other departments, but that would be that's it.
Thank you, Karen. Steve, come on up.
Steve Betts. I'm sort of flunking my retirement now, taking on special projects, and the things I take on now in this sort of stage of my career tend to be community impactful, almost P3, public-private partnership type things, and makes it kind of fun because in many ways I get sort of drug into these projects because they are things that the city wants. They're the things that community leadership sort of wants. And so it makes it helpful for me to get to work with all of you. And I've gotten to work with Josh and Miguel and Josh's predecessor quite a bit on these. And the thing that you all do so well on those, I think, is the communication side that you all referred to. And I would echo the comments that have been made about that. That's the thing that I think we all could appreciate the most. And if you can bring that down to the level of your teams, is get back to us quickly with answers. And that's the piece with Park Central Mall. These mall redevelopment projects, both Park Central and Metro Center, are incredibly difficult in getting answers quickly, being able to, but also creative answers. And you've heard this from a couple of people that the creativity is that on the Helios project, when Josh and I were working on the zoo parking lots, trying to get those rebuilt, and just getting answers quickly, getting at least a response quickly. But then something Alan said that I think is really important. Oftentimes we get a lot of cooperation from you all, but it's the other departments, and particularly on these exactions, to throw out a legal term that I try not to be a lawyer anymore. But when we get hit with these infrastructure issues, and it's infrastructure that's toppling a lot of the performance now and making especially these public-private partnership deals really difficult to do. And if the infrastructure costs sort of upside down the project, and especially on adaptive reuse and especially on infill projects, where you all can be helpful is working with your sister sort of departments a little bit and helping us there, and with economic development and others. And because if we get hit with serious infrastructure requirements, and especially where they are borderline in terms of legality on the exaction side, and whether both the proportionality and the nexus are questionable, that's where you could really help us a lot. And but honestly, you all do a great job. Of all the cities I work with, and I work with a lot of them around the valley, I enjoy working with this city the most, and that's why I spend most of my time with this city. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Bob, come on up.
Good morning. Bob Graham, Motley Design Group. Really glad to see you all here today. What's interesting to me is how many of you I email regularly and I don't think I've ever met. But appreciate your responding to the emails and working with us on things. So I'd like to focus a little bit on specifically the topic today, which is adaptive reuse, historic preservation, and how I think the city has come light years in treatment of these sorts of projects in the last 20 years, certainly, and even the last 10 years. I remember trying to do projects back in the day, and it was just like beating against a wall to try to get anything really done in a reasonable way on an adaptive reuse project or a historic project. So definitely kudos there. I think the adaptive reuse policies that have been in place, I don't think they're 100% yet. I think they're excellent. I would kind of suggest or encourage maybe an annual or biannual renewal process of some sort to maybe get all these brains involved again in the things that we've found in the ensuing years that have been issues that could be addressed by amending the adaptive reuse policies a little bit. And I don't have anything specific in mind, but I know that every few months I seem to come upon something that's like, well, why aren't we allowed to do that? That should be in the adaptive use policy. I think you've also, I'm perceiving that you're making a real hard effort here in PDD to break down silos. And I really appreciate that, because I think all of you who work in city government and those of us who work with city government a lot are very aware of the fact that most of city government is ridiculously siloed. I won't name names with other departments, but I really appreciate you're all obviously working together on this. And that I think helps a lot, particularly. I think the communications situation with all the various people that get involved on a big development project, much better than it used to be. So kudos there as well. I'd say we are still probably falling down a little bit on training of the frontline people. It is a rare project that we get involved with just at the initial plan review or development review level that doesn't have to get escalated to one of you guys. And I think that's been brought up before. I understand that there's partly an issue of all the new staff and the big turnover that we've had. But still, particularly with regard to historic preservation and adaptive reuse policies, there seems to still be something of a gap with the frontliners that don't really get it. And we here who work in this is predominantly downtown development or central city development that we're talking about in this particular arena, because obviously most of city development is not here, at least it hasn't been until recently. So there's so many policies that in the past have all been directed towards new development, and that's the experience that a lot of staff get. So I also appreciate that that there have been developments in creating teams that are specialized in these things. I think that helps a lot as well. And I have to support my historic preservation department because they're wonderful. Include them in more things. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
All right.
All right, anybody else? Alan, come on up.
One more thing really quick. I think, Josh, you mentioned Frank Fairbanks, and I respected him as a city manager and did an outstanding job. And one of the things that he did while I was at City Hall was put the entire team, everyone, every department through a visions and values session. And some of you up on stage, possibly Tom, might remember that. It was pretty simple, the simple takeaway. And that's, as you're doing your work every day, ask yourself the question, am I making Phoenix better in your decision making? And I know I took that with me while I was an employee here at the City of Phoenix, and I've taken that to the private sector and the projects that I work on that are in the City of Phoenix. I truly try to live that every day, and I think it's extremely helpful. So let's all make Phoenix better.
Well said, Alan. Before we break, Cassie, you coming up or? I am. All right.
Morning. Nice to see you all again. One comment I have is about the historic preservation, and Alana, this specifically for you, or Helena, I'm sorry. Take the opportunity to really go through that ordinance, make sure it makes sense. For those of us who have a project come forward, it's virtually incomprehensible. And the processes that are involved there, just like, I'm not sure what to do. So take that opportunity. Thanks.
Because I know we're winding down a bit on comments, I just want to, thank you all for being here again today. I want to thank the entire management team for being here these last 3 sessions. I want to thank Matt from Channel 11. I want to thank our dynamic PIO, Talia. There's one person I've been remiss in thanking these last couple of sessions, and that's Helen Sosa. So Helen is the one who's organized all these, put our packets together. So Helen, thank you so much. Really appreciate all her phenomenal work. So, if you've got a little bit of time, we'll be here to hang out. We've got some coffee in the back. If there's a face that you now know that's sitting up on the stage, please make that connection. We're here to help. We've got another one of these sessions. My last ask of you is we've got another one of these sessions on January 12th. We really wanted to highlight our OCA and Ombudsman office, but if there's just somebody that hasn't connected with us yet, please send them our way, even if it isn't on the 12th. We really want to try to get as connected with the community as we can, because this is where the answers start. And so just thankful for your time. I'll turn to the team. Anything you guys want to ask or engage on before we adjourn? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I have the one that I talked about.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, fire away.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So can you all hear me? Okay. I've been taking notes, and every time.
Yeah, he needs you for the video.
Thank you. Thanks, Alan. Every time there's a repeat comment, I'll put a tally next to it. And it seems like there's one comment that comes up every 10 to 15 minutes in all 3 of the sessions. And it's said in different ways. Effectively, the city of Phoenix is growing. Adaptive reuse, those are some of the tougher projects, right, historically. Creates the need for creative problem solving. And so we've talked about empowering staff and trying to get them to have this creative problem-solving attitude. But we've also had some recognition that the newer staff, and we have quite a new staff, don't necessarily have that, primarily because they don't have the experience. They haven't seen dozens and dozens of projects and see how problems are solved. And while I recognize that in the city's staff, I also recognize that when I was in the private sector. When you're new, you kind of hold tight to those regulations, right? That's your comfort zone. And then as you have more experience, you start to get a little bit more comfort with branching out from that, finding those creative solutions. Typically, the staff that have that experience are the direct supervisors, right? The one line above. And so you've heard from our management, sometimes when you come to management, we don't have those solutions. We have to go back down to the staff. And so one of the solutions is getting that information out to our customers. Who are those direct supervisors? But I'm curious, have any of you had the experience where you've had a disagreement with either an inspector, a ground line inspector, or plan reviewer, and you've said, hey, I wonder if your supervisor has seen this in a different project. Do you mind if we get them involved and engage that way rather than some of the other ways that we've heard about? And how successful has that been if you've tried that approach?
Anybody want to share an anecdote there, or just check? Nate, come on up. 3 times.
I'm not shy. So yeah, this one was from last week, and Tom was the savior in this story. So yeah, we had a project downtown, 24-unit multifamily. We just wanted to change out the stucco. So it was one manufacturer, PowerX, and another manufacturer, Western One Coat. Exact same system, exact same fire rating, pretty much the same condition. So our inspector was kind of concerned, hey, I can't make that field approval. I need you to go back to planning, which everybody freaked out about because that could take 30 to 60 days. I mean, it's a one-day change in most cases. So we pinged Jason. Jason got us in touch with Tom. Tom kind of said, hey, I think it's fine to approve, and we resolved it. But I think that was where in Mike, your example, we probably should have gone to somebody and said, hey, can you touch base with the inspector? But it kind of happened organically, but it got to the end result. So I like your approach, though, that if there is an issue, we do bring you in with that kind of positive, like, hey, Has your supervisor seen this? Maybe you guys can chat and get back to me, because I don't know if we always say it the right way. We're usually like, "This is wrong, help us." So, I think I like that tactful approach more. So.
Amy, come on up.
Just a follow. My quick question is, we know you guys for the most part and love you guys, but I'd love to have a panel or an introduction to the direct supervisor for plan review. Because I'm like, everybody. I think we're all. I mean, Carolyn said it. We're all kind of, had the same graduation year in high school. So our default is to go to you guys because we've been doing it for the last couple decades. But I would love personally to get an introduction to the direct supervisors for the plan review. That would be a fantastic benefit for me personally. And I think for probably a group of us in here too. So.
Yeah, I think Carolyn brought this up. I think Wendy brought it up at a previous session. Everyone really loves the org chart that we put out. We need to go several layers down, right? And we're committed to doing, not to get ahead of the things we're going to come back with after all this. Spoiler alert, that will be one of them. And so, Helen put together a phenomenal template. Again, I want to give her a lot of credit. She's going to be working with her counterparts, with all the folks up here to say, you need to create one where you're on the top and show everybody who your supervisors are. And then you have a corresponding function sheet that would go along with that. So we hear you. We think it's a great suggestion. Wendy, go ahead.
That's perfect. And that was going to be one of my takeaways as well. I would also say we can be more patient with the staff, but there's also repeat offenders. So do we take that same person we know we're going to get the same answer, no, who's not going to problem solve? It's like, how many times do you run your head into a wall? And so eventually it becomes much easier to go way up to have the problem solved, and that becomes what our clients expect. So that would be, I think, encouraging us to be more patient in trying to go a level up, having an org chart so we actually know who to contact. By the way, telling site planners they have to give us their phone number. Sorry, it's part of a job, right? You should have we have literally had site planners say, we don't respond to our calls, we don't answer our phones. That's how nice for you. But really, they should have to do that. And again, just having that org chart would be huge. Thank you.
Great question. All right, well, again, feel free to hang out. We're here to help. While we'll be reporting back in the spring. In the meantime, if there's something we need to focus on with you, if there's somebody you want to connect with that don't know yet, we'll start working through these problems. So again, appreciate all you being here this morning. Thank you again.